the passages of scriptures that you heard this morning, both in the Old Testament and New Testament, I see so much in this person named Gru, who is part of the story of Despicable Me. Gru, in the first movie, we find he is a bad guy. He's not a good guy. He is a bad guy, and he wants to prove that he is the worst villain that anyone can meet or know, or the worst villain in the whole world. And he sets out to prove that in all kinds of ways. One way he's planning to prove that is by stealing the moon. And he's just out there trying to show the world, or perhaps present his identity of being evil in some of the things that he is doing. But we find out that Gru was demeaned by his mom as a child. And he was called an animal and wouldn't amount to anything. And we also find out, I don't know if I'm giving away anything, but those of you who are a fan of Despicable Me, you forgive me if I give away any spoilers here and there, but we find out that his parents were divorced, and I'll tell you just a little bit about that in a few minutes. But here's the thing about Gru: you start feeling bad for this man. You can see that he has some good qualities, and we can start relating with Gru in some ways, because of course we're not out trying to steal the moon in any way, but we have our aspirations. We have our feel that success is somewhere up ahead in front of us, and that we will achieve that one day. But there are certain things in our lives, just like in Gru's life, that are holding him back, that are keeping him and having him live in his past. And here's the thing about it, you know, God sees our past. Let that sink into you just a little bit. God sees our past. As a matter of fact, He might be even looking at it right now, and while you're thinking about it. You know, He sees what you have been through. He knows all about your abuse and your failures. He knows all things no one else knows about. God knows. He sees our past. He sees our past clearly. And then the story of Despicable Me, Gru invites some orphans to his house. 3 ladies he invites to his house. And these orphans are innocents. And they love Gru. They love Gru. They love him a lot. And their acceptance of him, regardless of his actions, regardless of the fact that he treats them horribly, they keep loving him and wanting a relationship with him. And that's what really, you know, attracted me to this movie, you know, how powerful this movie is, because these three children just win his heart, and they work on him, and he's horrible to them, you know, and stuff, but they don't give up. They just keep loving him. They just keep reaching out to him. They just want to get close to him, and they see in him that good quality, that good in him, just like God sees that in each and every one of us. And so this love begins to change Gru from the inside out. Let's watch a scene, and this is in Despicable Me 1. Let's just watch a scene on how these three have worked on Gru.
Oh no, sorry, that book was accidentally destroyed maliciously. Tonight, we are going to read a new book. This one is called One Big Unicorn. By who wrote this? Oh, me! I wrote it. Oh, look, it's a puppet book.
Here, watch this. Oh, this is
This is gonna be the best one ever.
not to pat myself on the back, but yes, it probably will be. Here we go.
One big unicorn, strong and free, thought he was happy as he could be. Then 3 little kittens came around and turned his whole life upside down.
Hey, that one looks like me.
No, what are you talking about? These are kittens. Their relation to persons living with them is completely coincidental. They made him laugh. Ha ha! They made him cry.
He never should have said goodbye.
And now he knows he could never part from those 3 little kittens that changed his heart. The end. Okay. All right. Good night.
Just wanted you to get a little picture of Gru and how powerful these 3 children are in his life and bringing him to a transformation, a complete transformation in his life. And so Gru has this transformation, and then Despicable Me 2, you know, he winds up getting married, and there's a whole lot. Here's the thing about it. When on Friday, Rudy and I, or Thursday night, I think it was, Rudy and I left the theater, you know, we were thinking to ourselves, yeah, this movie, and there were a couple of kids in the theater, and they were giggling and laughing, you know. But there's so much in this movie itself. Again, I'm not giving you a review to go see it or anything, but you know, what we were talking to ourselves is how many messages and how many adult messages are in this movie that are very powerful and speak to us, all right? So now Gru has this transformation. He's no longer a villain. He's no longer doing evil. He's no longer doing bad stuff. I mean, his whole life has changed, you know, completely. And but then we have Despicable Me 3 comes into the scene, and I'm not giving any spoilers away here because whatever I'm sharing with you, it's in the trailer or it's been spoken already, and so don't feel, you know, bad. But what we find is that Gru discovers that he has a twin brother. And let's see this trailer real quickly. You know, that believe me, folks, I'm going to preach to you in a minute. You know, let's look at this trailer here because the trailer itself speaks for itself what's happening and what happens to Gru.
Shortly after you and your brother were born, your father and I divorced, and we each took one son. Obviously, I got second pick.
I have a twin brother.
Hey, brother, did you do that?
Finally, I'm meeting you. Your discomfort is hilarious. So, how are things career-wise? Great.
You let the most wanted villain just get away. You're fired!
So great. Crushing it. I brought you here to continue the family business. Villainy is in your blood.
And take a look at boobs.
Left their life behind me. I understand. I wonder what this does. Holy moly! Become a villain again. That's pretty nice. It's easy to be what's your name? You take me for a ride.
So, what did you guys do today?
There's always a blanket. Nothing. So
It was so fluffy.
I thought I was going to die.
So, you two are villains now?
I mean, hello, sweetie.
Busted.
So bad, so bad. Guarantee I'll be your best friend. Oh, the hockey man on the kissing face, please. So bad.
The minions are rated PG-13. Let me warn you about that. They're villains, these minions, and they haven't been too happy with the transformation that has taken place. And they've been hoping and waiting that Gru would backslide and go back to being a villain, which is what they enjoy and what they want to be a part of. And here comes a twin brother who's a villain and wants to bring Gru back into doing evil and things. And the minions, they quit up Gru. They go to the brother, they say, no, this guy's not doing anything, so they do. But anyway, that's, and so how does the story of Balaam in the Old Testament, in the book of Numbers, the book of Numbers is a book that, how many in the past, let's say 3 months or 5 months, have read something from the book of Numbers? Don't raise your hand because you'd be lying. Nobody has, because not too many people read out of the book of Numbers. Unless you're reading through the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation, you'll read into the book of Numbers. But other than that, people do not go into the book of Numbers, and part of it is because some people think that that Numbers, am I losing sound here? Do I need to use this microphone here? Something's going on here? I don't know. I lost sound. You still hear me? Kevin, can you hear me back there? Oh, okay, good. All right. So anyway, so what happens is, anyway, how, the book of Numbers is something that we, Numbers, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, some people avoid those books because they feel that what's in there, it's just information and numbers and counting and festivals and all that kind of stuff. Everything in the Bible, in all 66 books of the Bible, are divine, inspired by the Holy Spirit, and they speak to us God's word very powerful. And so, here's what's happening. The battery is dead on this thing. I'll use the microphone that is up here if you guys don't mind. Is that okay? I'll use this mic. All right? Good. Stick with this mic. Anyway, and so there are great stories in there. And perhaps one of the most exciting stories that we find in the book of Numbers is the story of Balaam. Now, a lot of people know the story of Balaam because it's either told in Sunday school, or you've heard it as a joke, or some people just would talk about it because they use it to teach somebody something and I don't know what. But anyway, the story of Meadow is a beautiful story. It's a powerful story. It's one that I've always been fascinated with. Now, I haven't been able to understand this story really. I don't even understand certain aspects of it, but not truly the message that is being brought to us by the book of Numbers and the story of Balaam. Because it's a little confusing, and it's confusing to some folks because we don't really understand and know who Balaam is. And so as you start digging into the scriptures and you start looking into the story of Balaam and reading it over and over and looking at the background of the story and also the context of it, you come away and you begin to understand this man Balaam and what was wrong with this man and why he behaved the way he behaved. Well, let me just give you a quick little background. The children of Israel, they were on their way to the promised land. They were on their way to Canaan, and they were just almost there. They were by the Jordan River, ready to go across into Jericho and then into the Promised Land. And but certain things were happening to them and kind of delayed them a little bit. And so, but everywhere they went, they conquered whatever army was there. There were armies that were trying to stop them from going into the Promised Land. But every single army that came against them were stopped completely by the Israelites. Nobody could stop them when we know God was with them, fighting for them. And so there was one army that was standing around, and when they saw this happening, they said, we're in trouble because they're going to run us over too. They're going to do a number on us just like they've done on the Amorites and Jebusites and all these others that they have destroyed to get here. We're next. But the fact of the matter is that God did not have any plan to destroy the Moabites because the Moabites were the sons of Lot, and God already had declared a blessing on them and wasn't even going to bother with them, you know. But anyway, here's the thing. They panicked. The king of the Moabites panicked. His name is Balak. And he hears about Balaam. He hears that there's this, there's this, for those of you who understand Greek, there's this spiritist out there, there's this guy out there who curses and blesses. Now, that's an interesting distinction for a person, but that's how we know who Balaam is. And we are not convinced that Balaam was a prophet of God. It's not clear in the scripture that he was a prophet of God. He was a prophet, and he was a false prophet. He was a prophet that, I guess, had experienced some cursing and some blessing. Because when Balak hears about him, he hears that he's really good at what he does. And so, Balak sends out a band of his servants with some treasure to offer to Balaam to curse the people of Israel. So when they arrive and they offer this to Balaam, Balaam turns around and says, oh, time out, man, time out. You want me to curse those people, the Israelites? And it's interesting, we begin to know that he doesn't really have a relationship with the Israelites. Why? Because he doesn't even know about them. He doesn't even know anything about them. He says, well, you know what? I've heard some rumors out there, and I've read some papers, but I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to ask God about them to see if it's okay to curse them, you know. And this goes on, and it happens 3 times. You know, God tells Balaam, don't even try it, because those people are blessed, and they're blessed by me. And I'm the one who blesses and curses, so don't even try it. So Balaam, goes back and tells them, no good, you guys go back home. It's not going to happen. But they came back with a greater offer and more money. And that didn't happen. Then they came back with some princes and some real prominent people and with a lot of more money. And each time, Balaam would turn around and say, well, let me see if God changed his mind. Let me see if I can get God to come along with me and on this, because what you offer me is pretty nice, and I think I can use that and everything else. But, we see where Balaam's heart is. And he goes after God again and again to the point where God turns around and says, hey, go ahead. Go ahead. That's what you want? Go ahead. You go and do what you want to do. And so Balaam sets out on his donkey, as we just read, to go and to curse the people of Israel. And we know what happens. All of a sudden, the donkey stops and refuses to move, because the donkey sees an angel with a sword that is drawn, and it's the angel of God. It's God's angel. And the donkey don't want to move. And so he smacks the donkey on the head and says, let's get going, and then the donkey keeps moving and finds the angel again in front of him. And we read the story, we read what happens. All of a sudden, 3 times, this angel appears And the third time, the donkey says, I ain't going anywhere. And it just lays down, over Balaam. And so now Balaam, gets really angry and starts really beating the donkey. And the Bible tells us that God opens the mouth of the donkey. God puts speech into the donkey. Now, if you think for a minute, I don't know, how is that possible? Well, look at some of your neighbors, God puts speech in them, and stuff. God can put speech in anybody, okay? All right? So God can put speech in whatever he wants. Now, here's the strange part of it. Balaam is not confused about this. And you wonder to yourself and say, wait a minute, how come Balaam is not confused with this Mr. Ed experience that he's having, where this donkey is actually talking to him, and he's talking back to the donkey and stuff. Well, again, it speaks a little bit about where this man Balaam comes from, the life of the spirit world that he is a part of. For him to be hired to curse, he had to be tapping into some spirit world and some powers that are beyond human powers. And so, who knows what kind of experiences Balaam had so that he can have this conversation with his donkey. And finally the donkey, just tells him, hey, listen, man, I've been faithful to you. I've been good with you. I've never done anything like this. This is some crazy stuff going on. The donkey's actually telling him. This is crazy what's happening. This is weird what's happening. And I recognize it as weird. And why don't you see it as weird? Something is going on here. Something is wrong here. Something is happening. And I think you need to listen, Balaam. I think you really need to look at this situation. That's how God is speaking to this man, trying to wake him up because he's not seeing it. I wrote a few things down about what I think about this, just to move us along, because I only have 7.5 minutes left. Here's some things about Balaam. Number one, and what we learn in this story. It's dangerous or foolish to be against what God is for. And you might think to yourself, well, wasn't it God that said to him, go ahead? Yeah, it's the same God that in our Bibles tells us to go ahead if you want to. You want to sin? Go ahead. You want to go the life of rebellion? Go ahead. I put two roads in front of you. One is righteousness, and one is a road of unrighteousness or sin or disobedience. Which one do you want to go? Go ahead. Basically, what God was saying to Balaam, go ahead. If that's what you want, if that's what's in your heart, if that's what you're going after, go ahead. But he wasn't discerning that it wasn't God's will. You see, that's where it can get a little bit confusing for us. Let me go on with these points because I'll keep coming back to this so I can explain this to you. Because I don't want to leave this pulpit, and leave you, wondering why I titled this message Despicable Me. I should have titled it Despicable You, but no, it's Despicable Me and You. That's the way I should have titled it, Anyway, we'll get to that. Number two, our challenge is not to convert God to be on our side, but to be converted so that we may be on His side. Are you hearing me? Yeah. There's some folks who keep asking God for things. Number three, getting away, I'll come back to that. You think I'm going to let you over it? No. Getting away with sin for a season should in no way lead one to conclude that there will be no dire consequences in the future. Some people confuse God's loving kindness and His patience and His love for us. But you continue in disobedience, you continue ignoring the Lord, you continue in your sin, it'll catch up to you. There is a penalty. There is. That waiting period, that donkey speaking to you, man, that is God speaking to you and telling you to turn around. Number 4, many people try to convince us that they're seeking God's will, but without success. And these same people are the people who already know God's will. I've had some people come up to me and say, I don't know if it's God's will for this day or not, but I'm still asking. I'm still asking. Years go by and I'm still asking. Hey, listen, God already answered you. You just are not happy with his answer. And so now you're just trying to convert him. You're trying to change his mind. You don't mess with God that way. That is dangerous and that is foolish. If God said no, it's what? It's what? No. That's it. Number 5, beware of the great danger of seeking to use God. Number 6, there's nothing more important than being on the right path, nor more dangerous than being on the wrong path. And this is the story of David. He decided to go on his own path, and God said, go ahead. Romans chapter 1, we have those words from Paul the Apostle. He said they changed their worship of the Creator to the worship of creation, of things, of pleasure, of the world. And God, the Bible says, gave them up to that, to their sin. Now here's the thing that we have to learn about David. We can see the grace of God in the life of David because God was merciful with David. Look how God speaks to him. Well, you know what? One thing I learned about God, he doesn't play riddles. He doesn't play games with us. He doesn't play hide and seek. He tells us straight out what we need to hear. Why? Because he loves us. Anyway, let me just switch now to Paul the Apostle, because we read about Paul the Apostle. And I love chapter 7 of Paul the Apostle, of Romans 8. Actually, of the book of Romans. This is one of the greatest things Paul ever wrote. And as he was writing this, I can imagine, I can picture in my mind Paul being inspired by the Holy Spirit to write this book of Romans, the most powerful book in the whole Bible. And he's writing in chapter 7 something very interesting. Something that when I got to chapter 7 for the first time, it was a relief. Because what we hear Paul the Apostle saying is, something is happening inside of me I can't explain. I don't know what's going on. Because the good I want to do, I don't do. And the evil I don't want to do, I find myself doing that. I find this happening inside of me. This is Paul. I'm paraphrasing it. But you got to read it for yourself so you know I'm not lying. Okay? Even though some of you believe me because I'm a nice guy. And you know, I've got this face in life and stuff like that. But man, don't accept what somebody said because they're good looking, like me, and everything else. Read it for yourself. Search the scriptures. Look at what God's word says for yourself so you know that what's being said is God's word, not a man's word. Because I can speak to you under conviction. I can speak to you with power, and I can speak to you with earnestness that it has no power. To convince you. The word preach means, it means, let me get this thing. Persuasive speech. It's like a salesman. They're gifted in that. So, you know, things like that. So, I encourage you to look this up and read it for yourself. Paul the Apostle is now saying, the good I want to do, I don't find myself doing. And the evil I don't want to do, I find myself attracted to that. I find myself doing that. I find myself lured to that. I find myself going more to that than the good. Now you got to ask yourself the question, who in the world is saying this? Well, I'll tell you who is saying this. It's a mature Christian. It's a Christian that has arrived. It's a Christian that is at the apex of his spiritual life. It's a Christian that's been there, done that, and has lived this Christian life. He is saying to us the good that he wants to do. He doesn't find himself doing it. Are you hearing me, folks? And so what is Paul describing? You know what he's describing to us? A mature Christian. Because a mature Christian is a Christian that is aware that there's sin in their life. A mature Christian is aware that there's weakness in their life. A mature Christian is aware that they are poor in spirit and in need of God. And when you get to that place in your Christian life where you think you got it all together and that you cannot fail and that you cannot mess up, you're already dead. Because you're in a deception, which is the worst place to be. We will continue to struggle with sin, guess what? Until we die. Paul was at the very top of his life when he said this. And what he's saying is, what's wrong with me? The very good I want to do, I do not do. Well, chapter 7 of Romans, it kind of like sets the table for chapter 8. That's what I love about it. I thank God for chapter 8. Because chapter 8 speaks about the power of the Holy Spirit. Chapter 8 speaks on how we can overcome sin. Chapter 8 speaks that if we feed the flesh, we're going to live a life of the flesh and sin. And if we feed the Spirit, we will live a life of the Spirit. What a powerful, powerful statement Paul is making there. You wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to be a vegetarian today. I'm going to be a vegetarian forever. I am not going to eat meat anymore. I am going to behave myself. I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to do the right things. I'm not going to drink soda anymore. I'm not going to do all of these things anymore. And you and I know come the 4th of July. Hey folks, are you following me? Here's how Paul ends that chapter. He says, "Oh, despicable me." Now how do I know that he said that? Because I looked up the word wretched. That's the word he uses. He said, "Oh, wretched man that I am." I looked up the word wretched in the dictionary. It says despicable. He said, "Oh, what a despicable person I am." Who can free me? Who can set me free? And then he answers, Jesus Christ. Only he can set me free. And that ends the chapter, and it goes into chapter 8. The chapter of the Holy Spirit. God's power. We can't make it on our own. We need the Holy Spirit. God speaks to us all the time, very clearly. Sometimes we use it on people. That's about it. Oh Lord, we need you. We need your power. We cannot do anything on our own. We need your Holy Spirit in us, empowering us to live this life. Without your Holy Spirit, we fail again and again and again. So please help us. Help us, O God. Give us the power. Give us the energy. Give us the strength. Give us your will. To do what you have called us to do. To be faithful to you, Lord Jesus. For we ask this in Jesus' name. And the church say amen.
Amen.